Hi everyone, welcome back to Window Chats with Robyn, the Instagram Live podcast where I sit by my window and chat with very interesting people. Today we have Darryl Hogan, no relation to Hulk Hogan, at least not to my awareness. That was so funny in my head. I'm excited. Darryl is very passionate about all things voiceover, so this should be fun. And now is the fun time where I just kind of sit back, chill, let Instagram know that I started the live. I get to talk to myself for a bit, which is always fun. Oh, I see. Hi, Kev. And yeah, this is probably the most awkward part because it kind of goes, will it work? Won't it work? For all of you who have never seen an Instagram live before, if you write any comments, there is a bit of a delay. So I do see your comments. Sometimes I forget what we were talking about because there was a delay, but I do appreciate all the comments. Thank you for watching. And for those of you that aren't watching and are watching it after the fact, that's also totally fine. Yeah, for those of you that aren't watching at all, this is an irrelevant thing to say. So this isn't being addressed to you. My God, I haven't had to make small talk like this in a while to myself. Instagram lives are fascinating. I'm going to try and invite Darryl in. Now the question is, will it work? I hope so. Let's find, here he goes. And I'm going to send it. Okay, Darryl, I have a good feeling. I think it's going to work. Oh, Lindsay too. Look at this, all cage casting. You guys are awesome. Okay, I sent it. I'll try again. I'm going to try again. Or I don't have to.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Okay, we're good. You joined. Your red mic matches my chair. Look at that coordination.
Indeed it does. Indeed it does.
It's also
How
not
you
the
doing?
mic you're using. I'm good. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. Give me a reason to goo my hair and throw on a collared shirt.
Well, actually, your hair isn't, it's pretty good. Did you just
Thanks.
do it yourself?
I just gooed it. I had my hat on and I had a colleague say, "Did you do your hair?" I was like, "No," and I got a facepalm emoji in response and I was like, "All right."
I appreciate the effort. I really do. Look, I did a little hair, but you know what? The thing is with voiceover, it doesn't really matter. So maybe we could just like cover our face and go.
Absolutely, right?
I wonder that. I know when I did one with Lindsay, it was all grainy for my face. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You can hear the voice. It's fine.
That's all that matters, right?
But yeah, how are you doing? How's life?
Life's good. You know, I've been in a really, really great place for the most part over the last couple of years. Well, the world's been going to hell in a handbag. So that's been interesting. I mean, I quit smoking a month and a half before the pandemic. So, you know, that was a great trajectory. And, you know, I guess part of the battle of not letting anything get in the way of that has been successful and has been like my positive thing throughout. So, you know, so I can't complain.
I'm so proud of you. That's really hard.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, a pack a day since the age of 11. You know,
whoa.
I can't say I don't think about it every hour of every day, but you know, it's good to be able to be past that. And,
I think they say, I can't remember the time frame, but it might be 10 years. And if you go 10 years without smoking, then it's like you never smoked.
Something along those lines, where the regeneration of like lung tissue and cleaning out, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to focus on, you know, keep it, not buying.
I know. Isn't one day at a time a lot better than 10 years? Dear God, where am I 10 years from now?
Totally. My mom quit smoking, I think, when she was 30. And it's funny. I remember I had one of those Kodak disposable cameras, and she was finishing her cigarette at the grocery store in the parking lot, and I took a photo of her. And I remember she yelled at me, right? You know, and I still have that photo. It's funny because it's kind of blurry because, you know, I moved out of the way because she came to close the door of the van. And I was like, uh-oh, is she going to knock the camera out of my hand? So it's kind of comical.
Classic. It's literally a Kodak moment. There you go.
Totally. Zing.
I haven't said that in so long, and I think the younger people have no idea what I'm talking about. So there you go.
No, exactly. You know, that's a funny thing, too. Like, you know, I showed my kids iRobot with Will Smith, 2004.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's an old one.
And it is an old one, but, you know, it takes place in the future. And part of the reason why I did that was because, like, for Christmas, we got my daughter Veronica a new alarm clock, and it's a Google alarm clock made by Lenovo. So it's, hey, Google, set my alarm for 6:30, right? You know, with the voice assistant. So I thought, you know, how's this for, you know, the whole AI, Android assistant thing, for a story. And I mean, they loved it. It's a great movie,
I
but it's
love
kind of
that.
like, pretty soon we'll be manufacturing things that will be doing your chores, right?
It's insane. Well, here's the thing too. I'm in a production and I'm voicing this house
Oh yeah.
so that kind of house that can do everything. I'm not going to ruin the plot, but it's when technology it doesn't work the way you want it to, and you go, oh, classic iRobot situation. Dear God. So I don't know. I get scared. How much is the technology? What are they listening to? And then I guarantee after we finish this, I'm gonna get like cigarette ads or something like that.
Absolutely. I was
They're
talking about something the other day, and it popped up. I guess the biggest problem is, you know, I already purchased that purse for my girlfriend, so stop bombarding me with more ads. Like
they
the
just
deal's
think you
done.
want another one. Like you like this
Oh.
one? It's in red. I'm like, well, okay, I like
Or
red.
the volume of private browsing you have to do around Valentine's Day, birthdays, and Christmas, right? Because it's kind of like, who's this jewelry for? It's like, well, there you go, ruined your Christmas present, right? You know what I mean? So, I've had to be careful on that, right?
Or sometimes what you can do is, well, at least this is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. Put a really expensive gift, all these really pricey items, so they think you're going to buy it. And then they get you a really nice gift, and then, oh, here's a pencil, right? And then, oh,
That's funny. I mean, we were at the point where we found the largest box we had in the garage to tape a couple of bills inside of for my daughter for her birthday, and we just thought that'd be, way too mean. Like, I mean, she just turned 11, so it was one of those things where it was like, this might be like slightly like heartbreaking, because
yeah.
she's also a little out to lunch in that sense, where she probably wouldn't look on the inside flap for for taped bills.
Just like, it's a box. That's the gift. You can fill it with whatever you want. It's artsy. You're welcome.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Kids are
So.
spoiled. There you go. Make a fort.
It's crazy. I feel as though from what we are used to what they are more accustomed to. It's and I mean, my kids are smart too. Like, one of them said, "Why would I buy one of that with my savings when I can just ask Santa for it?" And I was like, interesting, mind you. Like, you gotta share that wealth. Like, Santa's not going to build you every. I've asked for a car, I never got it, sweetheart. So and that's fine, right?
You got to do an age cutoff after age 12. Santa doesn't care.
Totally, right? I mean, like, once I lost my tooth. Well, many times I lost my tooth, and I couldn't sleep, and all of a sudden, like, I heard the door open, and I was fake sleeping, and I was like, this is probably just the old man turning off the TV in the living room in the other room, and like opening our door before he goes up to bed, and my eyes are closed, and I could feel the presence of someone, and then I could hear the the sound of change in a pocket. And then I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I don't know what's happening. Next thing you know, Dad leaves. I open my eyes, my tooth's gone, and there's a toonie in there. And so I wake up my older brother, like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. Like, Dad's a tooth fairy, right? Like, and he's 3 years older than me. He just turned around and looked at me. He's like, you didn't know that, idiot? He just rolled it back over, went back to bed, and I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. This messed me up for the moment, right? Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. I'm glad this is a safe space to discuss this story. I'm here for you, Darryl. I feel you.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember when I stopped realizing it was a thing. I think for the longest time, when I would lose my teeth, I would write notes to the tooth fairy. I wanted to keep the teeth. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to make like a cool necklace. I have no idea. It's bizarre. This was childhood Robyn. I was weird. I'm still weird. But I would write, "Dear Tooth Fairy," and ask my parents, what should I do? What if the tooth fairy takes my tooth? Do they know what's in my head? But write a note. So I'm writing these notes, handwritten letters, 7-year-old Robyn, whatever. And then, when you learn that your parents are the tooth fairy, I'm like, why did you make me write the note? I don't understand.
Well, it's funny. Well, and I mean, I'm grateful right now that, my kids, they do have TikTok, but they don't have Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. So they're not going to see this, at least for a while. But, my son lost his tooth at the playground. So thank goodness for magic, right? Because it's like, oh, don't worry. The tooth fairy will take care of that. They'll find it, just in that pile of mulch off of one of those like kind of spin till you're sick thing. And so it's kind of funny in that regard where. But when I was older, when I got older, and my mom had the Rubbermaid container of all of the precious memories that were for her, right? I mean, she gave it to me because it's like, Darryl, get your crap out of our house, right? You hit
Yes,
that
I love that
life,
face.
right?
Yep.
And I open up this envelope, and it's all my teeth from when I was a baby, and I'm like, this is morbid. This is like, really? And again, like, this wasn't for me, Mom. I don't need this. I don't need my bronzed shoe. You know what I mean? There's so much stuff that, I didn't need, but it was the teeth that were messed up. And I remember talking to my older brother, and he kept his. I was like, dude, man, that's weird. And I guess he was talking about like, well, just in case they could dig in there for stem cells or something like that. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like, you want to hold on to them. That's
yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, what if I die and someone pulls out all my adult teeth? If I carry my baby teeth on me, they can still identify me. I have no idea. I have no idea if that's a thing. I literally just thought of that. That sounds disgusting. Like, just always carrying in my pocket, I have my phone and my baby teeth. Bizarre.
It's like your ID, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have your driver's license? Your baby teeth? Yes, I do.
Exactly.
This is compelling. This is compelling discussion that we're having here. I don't need to know about anything voice related. I need to know all about your baby teeth.
Well,
can I ask you though, Darryl? Did you intentionally have the KH logo placed in the background so it could be in your frame?
That is actually just the desktop of my computer.
Oh, I was so impressed.
I didn't change it over, but I did pick this space because it's the best lighting. That's all, really.
I appreciate that.
So, there was no method to this madness.
You did your hair. You got some lighting. The audio, a little. I expected better. I really did expect a little better. But
well, I don't particularly recommend interfaces with mobile devices because quite often they can't power them efficiently.
There you go. So this is what not to do with Darryl.
It's funny. I've gotten a lot of compliments on Clubhouse with literally this set of headphones. Someone asked me, "What are you using? What kind of mic? What interface? Are you hooked up to an iPad?" And I was like, "Nope."
Maybe it's just because they read your resume, they go, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Yeah, it must be better. His quality must be better. And it's probably the exact same thing, if not worse than what other people are using. And they go, oh no, he knows what he's doing. You have this confidence. It's like, what is Darryl doing? I need to follow him.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. One of the first demos I recorded was with my Talkboy. With me and my former lead singer in grade 6. The Talkboy from Home Alone 2. I got one of those for the cassette recorders. And and then when we got an actual real band and electric instruments, one of the live off the floor demos we did was just hitting record on our boombox because the left speaker actually would act as a microphone. So, I mean, even on that note, I've had colleagues of mine submit and score music pitches, just recording, some backing vocals in our hockey dressing room after the game on his phone, right? Which he dropped into his Pro Tools and put into the mix. So
I remember in one of the chats you were having, oh my gosh, you did so many, I can't recall the exact one. But
do I ever shut up?
No. You have good advice. That's why I brought you. I'm like, just Darryl is smart and passionate, and I love that. But you had said if you're recording on your phone, to hold it as if you were talking into a phone. Because I would record like this, and I thought, oh my God, yes, of course. That's how it's meant to be used. But it was just this obvious thing that you had to say, and I thought, good to know. In case of an emergency, this is how I record. Hello.
Absolutely. I mean, the microphones are designed to capture audio like that on your phone. It's funny because, I mean, yes, the phone is barely used as a phone these days. I've had no voicemail now for I don't know how long. I have to get on a call with Rogers and say what the heck's going on. And I actually want to say maybe since, April 19th, I think it was, where the service went out for the day. But I only found that out yesterday. Someone said, I can't leave a voicemail. I was like, what? Well, first of all, like, who calls me aside from those like CRA scams, right?
True.
So, no one even thinks about that. This $1,000 computer we carry around in our pocket. It's actually a phone, should be used as a phone. Unfortunately, when you hold the mic like this, or even if you hold, what your earbud mic up to your mouth, you get a lot of plosives, you get a lot of mouth noise and a lot of wind, and it's going to be botched audio and really hard for the client to hear if you're going to be recording an audition. So yeah, absolutely, hold it to the side of your head for sure.
Or just don't use your phone to record things. So there you go.
Yeah, you could, whatever. To me, it depends. Like, obviously, you want to put your best foot forward when you're recording auditions, and you want to sound as clean and as clear as possible. I always tell people, the moment someone hears something in your audition and it's not you, they stop listening to you, right? If they hear, I can hear the construction site across the street, but if they hear the beeping of that truck backing up over your audition, not really that big of a deal, but sometimes you're like, oh, what's that? What's going on there? Oh, what? And then next thing you know, your read's done. They're on to the next listener. They're on to the next potential talent, right? So,
How would anyone ever listen to auditions all the way through? Or is it kind of like you get the feel for it, you move on? I'm always curious about that.
auditions, absolutely, right? I mean, at least the first take. And I say the first take because sometimes they'll ask for, or sometimes they could be submitted on the same track. So once the first take is finished, they will hit stop. And when I was a booth director and engineer at an agency for a while, and sometimes I would receive an email back saying, "Thanks, Darryl, these are great. Where are their second takes?" And it was like they're all on the same track. So I would just say, listen past the 34-second mark, and their second take will appear. They're there, right? So, but in general, absolutely. Like demos, not necessarily. Demos, you'll get maybe 10, 15 seconds if you're lucky, and then they'll move on to the next. But when it comes to the auditions, absolutely, right to the end.
This is interesting, though. So with the 2 takes, and I mean, this is what I've been doing. I just put it all on one file. Mm-hmm. Is it better to do 2 files? I just feel like it's less work if it's 1 file.
I mean, it depends. There's certain protocols for different casting requests.
No, so, Darryl, you're supposed to know every single casting director's request. And are you telling me I have to read the instructions for everything? This is a lot of work.
You know what? You'd be amazed, even when it's written 3 times, how many people don't read the instructions.
Well, no, I would not be surprised, because when I'm doing these things, I'm like, I swear to God, I sent instructions out and I don't understand why people don't read. And I don't know how much more can I condense this? Like, please read, sending this multiple times. So I get it. I do get it.
I was going to say, like, you've experienced it. And it's funny, sometimes when people ask questions, they're like, why are things so repetitive? And it's like, because you have to. And no matter how many times it's bolded, underlined, italicized, still, there's going to be at least one, misses it.
This is one of my favorite stories, because I'm a little bit on Clubhouse these days, quite a bit. And there was this casting director from the States, and she was joining a room I was in. And we were asking her, what is the best piece of advice you can give to actors? And she said, read all the instructions. So this one person asked a question. She asked, well, there was this one audition I had, and they said, general American accents, but I wanted to use a Southern accent. So should I have done that? Like, read all the instructions. I love that. But because it's so hard, because you're an artist and you have a vision, but that's not what they want. That's not what casting wants. That's not what their client wants. So it's very interesting. That was one of the conversations that resonated with me there.
Well, and I get it, because you are going to find the odd talent that said, you know what, I read the specs and I said, screw it, I'm doing what I want. And they booked the gig, and that's like, the 2% of the time that happens, right? But at the same time, too, I mean, there are performers that are sometimes, known for that, doing that constantly. And it can be detrimental, because it could be like, well, if we ask, we know they're just going to do what they do. But occasionally, sometimes you have a producer or a casting that comes around, and, they'll know when they hear it, and it needs to be a little bit more creative, a little more unconventional, and that's the person you think of, right?
See, this is the problem. When you tell me there's at least one person that books something, doing something different, I go, oh, it's got to be me. And then I make those, but I only do it for my second take sometimes. I go, this is what I'm feeling. This character should be an old woman. Every character in my head should be an old woman. It never works out. But I just picture when it's, especially for animation, like a little tiny animal, like it should be an old woman's voice. It's hilarious. Casting would disagree. But that is just, you know.
Viable options, right? I mean, when it comes to castings and when it comes to auditions and, you know, animation, unless they're asking for a specific, if they want like a C3PO, then they want a C3PO. You know what I mean? Like they don't want, hey, well, maybe I'll do like the bear from the Cleveland show or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, no, they, you know, give them what they want when they're specific. But outside of that, absolutely. And, you know, the second take, that's when, you know, definitely take advantage of it. Give them what they want in the first take. That second take, you know, offer them something that is viable and that would work or that you feel would work, or make it work in your performance, right? So that they would consider it. And that's the cool thing where, you know, you kind of have that option to go there. Commercials, a little bit more sticky, you know. There's research and development behind their ask. You know, one of the things that, you know, I've mentioned, and I think I've even mentioned it in your class, in a class with you before, was, you know, there's specific things that have to be done. And so, you know, even if you look at like, you know, decades of fragrances and the son of a voice, you know, at the end, shot in black and white with some guy in a white shirt that's undone on the beach. You know, it's kind of like they're all, but it's all the same for a reason. You know, they pour so much money into that research and development. So it's kind of like finding, you know, those things. And then as a performer, bringing in that creative to find that balance to make it, you know, viable and appealing to the ear of the everyman, everyone.
Absolutely. So. It's the commercials. I love that they brought that up because I had such an interesting moment this weekend where, you know, when they say, give us 3 takes of a commercial and it's, here's a line or a line or two, whatever it is. Dear God. Okay. Where do I put the intonation? Do I change the speed? It's just, that is for me is so ridiculously challenging. And it's, I don't know.
And you said one line, right?
1 or 2 lines. That's what it, yeah.
So do you remember, you were in that 4-week course that I did,
yeah,
right?
It was great.
Yeah. And we had one of those classes was specifically for short scripts.
I know,
because
but of course,
it's like the shorter the well, that's just it though. The shorter the script, often the more difficult it is, right? You know, you'd think less lines and, you know, a better idea, and it's like no, so it's a little bit more open ended to what's viable. So, you know, absolutely, like kind of pick and choose wisely. But again, like as you mentioned, you know, if it says like 3 takes, absolutely, and I think that's why more often than not with shorter scripts, you're allowed more than the 2, right?
Interesting. So. I don't know. That was one where I go, oh God, I guess I have to do a class with Darryl again. So it kind of was fun that I was chatting with you.
Shake off the rust.
Yeah, it's been a while. Let's revisit this because dear God, that was unsuccessful. I always appreciate the opportunity, but I sent it in and I'm like, nope, that is not that one.
That's
but I always feel bad because I know someone has to listen to it. I mean, maybe they don't, but I believe at least for the first 10 seconds, someone's listening. I'm like, you know what? Maybe the first bit wasn't bad, but if they get to the second take, they go, it's a little different. But how, like when you say different takes, how different would you expect the different to be?
It depends on what would actually be viable for the product.
Okay.
You know, obviously you're not going to, you know, voice a Nescafe audition in a casual tone and then think maybe for your, you know, your takes after that, you're going to go into monster truck voice. You know what I mean? It's like, that's
hilarious.
It is,
that's a
right?
choice.
And it's
the wrong choice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, so you're going to want to kind of, you know, give it some difference, but obviously you don't want to be all the way out in left field. Right. Now, again, on a third take.
I mean, right field.
Whichever.
That was a terrible joke. No, I've never, again, I'm saying all these terrible puns that I've never used before. I feel very comfortable. Like,
oh, good. Right? I'm glad.
Yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah.
I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. Like, forgetting people are watching us.
Oh my gosh. It's fine. It's like we're just having a conversation and people are listening. It's cool.
It's kind of like, are you on your phone or are you on a tablet?
I'm on my phone.
All right. So this is like between 2 phones.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
The line is, classic fern.
Right.
The mics are the ferns. There you go.
Exactly. You know.
Yeah, it's the between 2 reds. That's what we're doing.
Cool.
And now I'm looking at the mic and I'm like, is this where you did the class? When
Uh,
I remember the microphone, or do you just move the microphone around?
um, I jump around. I mean, you can only be in one room for so long.
That's true.
When the time changed, I moved up to my bedroom. I'm now in my bedroom
Oh,
because the windows,
I don't know you that
right?
well, but I feel very close to you right now.
Well, it's funny because then since I've moved up here for my workspace, I sleep on the couch because I'm here all day and in this room.
Separate
Right?
work and home life. There you go.
Totally, right? And it was just to shake it up, and literally the windows in here are pretty fantastic. So with the daylight savings time, but as it gets warmer, I will make my way back into the basement where it's nice and cool and comfortable.
Okay.
But yeah, it is the same mic though. It is I literally jump around. I actually believe I did one of those classes from my couch just for a change. So
I wouldn't be surprised. I was way too nervous to actually really focus on anything other than the red mic. It's terrifying. I'm like, okay, I'm on Zoom and I don't know these people, although they were a very nice group of people. And you go, okay, here, I'm going to do my bit. And then it's usually Robyn, slow down. I'm like, no, but I don't want to. I can talk really fast. Isn't that needed? No, it's not. No one can understand what you're saying. Okay.
Well, that's just it. They'll cut the copy before they speed you up, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of it too. Even like my approach with these classes, everyone has to remember that, everyone might feel very similar.
You paused for a second, and it was remember that, and then it was a pause. Like,
it's funny. I put my phone on do not disturb, and
you've been disturbed.
a text just came up.
Rude.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
What was I saying?
I don't know.
In those classes, that I kind of try to make a point to let myself be the first to embarrass myself before everyone else does, because then they'll feel that it's that it's okay. You know what I mean?
I don't remember how you embarrassed yourself.
Most of the time, it's just opening my mouth, right?
Oh, okay. Well, then you're fine. Okay.
Well, it's also funny too because I've had performers really get nervous around the animation thing. And, I'm one to say, really bring in.
Daryl's having some technical difficulties.
Do not disturb.
It's okay. I'm really curious about. We were discussing animation.
I'm on do not disturb, and calls from my son's iMessage.
They're finding you. They want you. Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, in animation, okay. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get into the character, right? If the character's on the phone, you can hold the phone to your head, right, to make it sound like that, or whatever the case may be. But sometimes, too, you have to make the face, right? I do this character like when I was washing my daughter's hair. She's got quite the head of hair. And there's lots of tangles and lots of crying, regardless of who would be brushing her hair.
Tears? What about the shampoo? L'Oreal Tears. Okay.
I'm telling you, even those detangle brushes aren't really a thing when it came to her hair. Anyway, so I do one character. And it was my French teacher from elementary school, and she had a specific look, and so you'd have to kind of make her face, and she was. In order to do the voice, you have to make the face and tilt the head, and make the change to your throat. I mean, it looks stupid as hell, but sometimes that's just what you have to do. I forgot to do the voice. Oh my God, Veronica, have you brushed your hair lately? Why are you crying? I make this so easy for you, but that never seems to happen every time I have a bath. You know what I mean? And you got to get over that fear, right? You got to get over that, because some people, you'll be in a session on the other side of the glass, or even in the booth, there could be 3 or 4 other people. It's an ensemble, and it's just what you got to do, and you have to get over it. I will say I had the pleasure of working multiple times with one particular performer, Rob Tinkler. Phenomenal. I've seen this guy in the booth voicing 4 different characters at the same time. And when I say that, each line he's changing up. And on one of the characters, he had a horse run up to the side like that, and then changed the lines. And it was like, I mean, talk about a master, right? And I mean, obviously, zero care of what he looked like, right? He was just doing what he had to do to perform the voices and make the voices work, right? So. And
then shakes your hand afterwards, and you go, "Whoa, I know where that's going."
Oh yeah, I mean that was back in the day, so you wouldn't be so afraid to do so. It only it would only maybe help your immune system back then rather than catch something. But it's it's just amazing though, some of the things that these people will do to get to the voice they need, to get to the physical things they need to do in order to get the voice out and consistent. So
it's so now I'm wondering, was there a time I should have done, I'm like, you can't touch your face, it's your face, do things to your face. Was that
totally.
Pat Collins VO, was this your Fat Tony character? Is there a name for that, or is this just you're out, find your Fat Tony?
That's hilarious. That's a bit of an inside joke. No, that find my Fat Tony. My Fat Tony is horrible. That was just
I'm intrigued.
It was just a direction that I gave to kind of get him somewhere. But it's kind of that old school kind of gangster. It was actually, I believe I said Fat Tony minus the Italian to it. So it's kind of like minus the dialect, same kind of cadence on his delivery.
Oh, interesting.
That's what he's referring to. Sometimes you got to say sometimes you got to say whatever you got to say to get the talent to get there. And when I say that, I've had one booth I was working in didn't have a double door, so you could kind of hear a little bit of the bleed through the door. And after I finished directing one client's audition, the next client came in, and they came into the read like a bat out of hell. And I was like, interesting. Why the hell did you take that approach? And so I heard you tell that guy over the top. And it's like, I had to tell that guy over the top to get him to a moderate place, right? The lingo is different for everyone, right? So
that's so interesting.
So
yeah, it's hard to not try and compare yourself to others, especially in that situation. But
absolutely right. And my approach when it came to auditioning in the booth when I was working at a talent agency, it was let's hear your interpretation first, and then mold you from there. So it was always like here's the spec, here's the rundown. Now let's take your take, and then we'll get it right. So that's why again came in like a bat out of hell, because his take was obviously influenced by the direction that was bleeding through the door.
It's good advice to know. Just trust your instincts, do your first take. And I say that I would never do that. I would do exactly what that person did. I would be like, yes, okay, even more over the top, Robyn. All right, dear God, what am I pulling from? I don't know. And then it would have been fun. It would have been terrible. Yeah.
Well, sometimes like I've had performers where I have red light syndrome. So when back before I had kids, I played in a band, toured the country, all that fun stuff. And cutting records was fun. I was the engineer and producer most of the time. And, I would teach the guys how to just kind of hit stop and record while I was in the booth. But, I was really only good for like 16 bars top. And that was it. And then I would flub, So it was kind of like, I could sit there. I could play the songs with, my hands tied behind my back. Right. But then once I hit record.
I don't understand that saying. You could not. I disagree with that saying very much so.
You can maybe take me up on that challenge one day. But
I am intrigued, but I don't believe that one at all.
It was kind of comical because, I'd get to about bar 16 every time and it just flub. Right. So, and there's a lot of performers out there. As soon as you say, recording, whenever you're ready, they can't get through the script. Although they were nailing it in their cold reads. And sometimes I would have to just say, hey, just spit out one more cold read, right? Just so that you're comfortable, and then we'll do it again. And sometimes I'd have to use that cold read, as their take.
Do you record the cold reads? Would you?
It depended on the talent, right? So, and then working with them to be like, here's what we got, here's what we're submitting, and okay, great. Just remember. And it was all, with the talent that happened with, it was a very small few, and they worked all the time. That was the interesting thing, right?
I'm really intrigued by this. When you were with the talent agent, if the talent got an audition, they would come to wherever you were doing your thing, and you would help them with their audition. Do they still do that? Or how does, could I save money on coaching? Is this?
Well, I mean,
Like,
you know,
what is this? Okay.
that's just it. Like some agencies will have like a studio on location and a booth director, either full-time or contract for castings when they come in. And that's just it too. I mean, even with this whole COVID thing and the home studio deal, you know, you want to, as the performer, you're contracted for the voice, right? So you should be focused on the voice and not have to worry about the technical aspect of it. And, you know, these agencies that have studios like on location, you know, they offer it. It's hard. I mean, a lot of people would ask for coaching from me when I was there, but I was too busy doing castings and everything else, you know, to squeeze in enough to meet the demand. But I mean, it would happen and you know, it would work. But yeah, I mean, like it was definitely a thing because then, you know, performers don't have to worry about the recording and making it sound good or even that their setup's a-okay, right? So
This timing is terrible. My entire weekend was spent editing. Oh my God. I mean, look, you learn. You have to, but it just took so long. Like I would have been good if I could find someone else, but it makes you stronger as a performer or whatever other things you're supposed to say.
well,
You know
you
what?
know,
It gives you an amazing appreciation for editing because,
oh,
and it also, okay, I will say the positive is the takes that I never think I'm going to like are always the ones I go with. So as a performer, that has been really helpful because if I wasn't editing it, I would have thought, those were bad. They're not going to use that. I go, oh no, those were the good ones. Dear God, why? So that's been the helpful component.
well, absolutely. You know, what you could feel in your gut and hear in the moment, you know, when you play it back, sometimes isn't exactly the same, right? And then those ones where you're like, I'm glad I didn't discard those, you know, can be your hero sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
always lovely. You go,
and
oh, that,
when it comes to editing too, I mean, like some performers have actually expressed to me that it's helped their delivery, right? Because you know they've really put their reads under the microscope, and when they say that, they talk about like their breathing methods, where to take pauses, and how long, right?
mm-hmm.
You know, they would express to me, you know, that I saw like the breaths I was taking out, and they were, you know, way longer than need be for, you know, the amount of copy I would have to say after the fact. And then sure enough, you know, they adjusted that in their real time reads and improved their cadence and their timing, right? And that was all thanks to them learning the editing process.
The timing is so interesting, especially with commercials. When again, fast talker Robyn, I'm like, oh, I did a 30-second one in 15 seconds. Awesome. That's not what they want. So it's very interesting to know, okay, where you can put the breaths in or take the breaths out. So yeah, valuable. There you go. There's a positive to having to edit it yourself. I like it.
Totally. And but even at the same time too, like you know, someone constantly I'm asked about, you know, fixing things in post. And, you know, I want to say that more often than not, you know, trying to grab the timing organically is your best bet, right? And then in post, they can figure that out if need be. So, and even if that's a matter of giving it more space in between the lines, right? You know, a lot of people that have worked with me have heard me say that, you know, I can take one read and I can put, you know, two different tempos of music underneath it, and they can sound faster or slower without touching the read at all, right? So, you know, that has something to say too with what you're submitting. And, you know, if anyone, you know, if I don't know how you did it with your editing, but how did you find, like, were you removing breaths and all that fun stuff?
I was.
Okay.
If it was really noticeable, if it
Okay.
was,
Smart.
yeah, if I could hear it, I go, oh, no, thank you.
Mm.
And then I would listen to it a couple different ways. And I'm like, no, okay. And that's no. Otherwise, yes, you have to breathe, but not when it's like, no, okay. Unless
Absolutely.
it's a gasp. If they want to hear an audible gasp, I'm not going to cut
Totally.
that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, like, you know, one of the reasons why I bring it up is because, you know, sometimes the breath actually adds context to the pace, right? So, you know, some people will say, I remove the breath, and then it sounds like just this big, long, awkward pause, right? And I always have this rule of thumb when it comes to editing dialogue. You know, you can silence the breath or remove the breath and then close it at least 50%, right? And that's just a good like marker. And then from there, you might have to add a little bit more of a space or even tighten it up a little bit more, depending on what's being said, depending on the rhythm and cadence of it all, right? But that's just like a general go-to on my rule of thumb when editing. Because again, otherwise, I mean, obviously, if you close the gap, then it's just going to sound like you're motoring through and you'll actually hear the edits. But if you leave it open, you're kind of like, what's happening, right? You know, so it's context, right? So
this is when you watch, I mean, at least when your kids were younger, would you notice, like even a kid show, would you hear like an editor's work, or would you hear, do you only focus on the voices when you're watching things? I don't know why I specifically chose kid shows. It could be anything. I like to listen to commercials and go, choices were made. Like that, question that.
You know, it's interesting because there's so much we don't know behind the scenes, and I don't
course.
really hear. I don't professionally. Everything's really clean and where it's supposed to be. I don't hear anything in particular. I will say one of the coolest experiences I had was when I started in this business in high school co-op when I was 16 at Deschamps Recording Studios. They had a 5.1 mixing surround sound theater. And on a slow day, we put on, I think it was Bugs or Ants maybe, that Pixar animated
Ants
film.
or Bugs Life. I can't remember.
I think it was Bugs Life. It was Bugs Life.
That was a good one.
And the cool thing was that they had the audio option of just hearing like the sound effects in Foley only. So there was no dialogue, no music, and just of all the, you know, of the different feet of the insects and, you know, the vegetation being walked on, you know, bending over when, you know, an insect gets to the top of like a piece of grass. You know, it was really, really, really cool stuff. So that was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me when it came to like Foley and sound design. The dialogue I've always found just to be so clean, right? Like, you know, it's and you know, I've rarely come across anything that, you know, made me think. There's things on the radio that have sounded questionable where I hear words and I'm like, wait a second, did they say that? How did that get approved? And I would bring it up to colleagues in the business and they're like, really? And they'd be like, yeah, take a listen next time it comes on, right? And it's like, you know, next thing I know, I get a phone call. I just heard that spot. You're bang on. I'm like, did they not say that? And how did that pass approval, right? You know what I mean? It sounded like words that you would, you know, that you'd never hear on the air or you know, that would be banned, right? So sometimes it comes down to compression, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's very, very rare that such a thing comes up or that I actually hear something. So
I just assume you're just, because you're listening to it all the time and you just develop such an ear for things that it's just always on. You can't shut off your ears.
The problem with that is actually myself. I drive myself batshit crazy over things that no one hears because my ears are so tuned. Literally, I've had like people like over my shoulder, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you don't hear that? And sometimes I'll zoom in, right? You know, you can go to, you know, waveform editing and you can switch to like spectrograph, which is, you know, gives it a different look. You might not see it on the waveform, but there it is on the spectrum. It's almost like an infrared kind of image of the dialogue. And it's like, so you won't see it in the waveform, but it's like, there it is. See, I'm not crazy. I'm hearing it, and there it is, like actual in the image. But it's and it's just a thing with myself. Sometimes it's detrimental because I'll spend half an hour on, again, removing something that not everyone's hearing. Or if I'm vetting a sound, right, of someone's space, right? It's kind of like, you know, how does this sound to you? This sounds good. This sounds good. This sounds good. And I'm sitting there saying, like, this is horrible, right? I can hear so much that, you know, so it's also finding that, that balance as well. You know, a lot of performers, they'll line their home studio space with like Oralex foam, right? So it's just kind of that eggshell foam. And I mean, sure, it helps absorb reflections, right? I mean, reflections is that echo you hear off hard surfaces, but, you know, it doesn't necessarily have like, say, an NRC rating, which is a acoustic rating that will give a value of how well it absorbs the sound. So even though that is a treated space, it can still sound a little hollow, right? And the performer's like, well, my space is treated with all this stuff and it should be no problem. But it's like, no, you can hear it. And when that happens, quite often is when I have to throw it over to colleagues saying, hey, do you hear anything in this or is it fine? Right? So, you know, that's when I try not to drive myself crazy when everyone else is saying it's more than fine, yet I'm hearing that little bit extra.
I mean, I appreciate it. You were the first person that was honest with me, like, Robyn, your sound quality is terrible. I'm like, thank you. Because I'm doing them. Like, I don't want to send out terrible auditions or whatever. So I was grateful for that honesty. And I like the sensitive ear, because what if someone also has your sensitive ear, or at least in that realm? So if you can hear it, or if it's like it only slightly bothers you, then I'm okay. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And, you know, thanks. I'm glad, you know, you were able to get out of that, because I've had a lot of performers tell me, I mean, first of all, the Garageband thing. Okay, the Garageband.
Oh, I stopped using Garageband. Like that, you were very helpful with that.
And well, but you know, as you know, the built-in echo and reverb, right? That is applied to it upon export, and you know, you're not going to hear that through laptop speakers, but as soon as you throw a pair of headphones on, you know, sounds like what you're hearing is in an echo chamber. And a lot of performers will be like, I've been sending these auditions to my agents for years, and they haven't said a thing. But again, you play them through your speakers on your laptop. You're not going to really be able to detect it. Again, as soon as you throw headphones on, then it's like, what the hell? So
that the headphones was a game changer, because again, I used to only listen through my speakers, and then I listened through headphones and go, what? And that was so interesting. I mean, yes, I don't know all the science and audio science, whatever, but there is a difference in the sound quality. And I thought that was such great advice. I'm like, oh, okay. Do not send anything I listen through on the speakers. Always listen through the headphones.
Totally right. And that's the thing too. I mean, even with the whole phone, you know, that was you know, I have to credit actually Kim for that, to the side of the ear, that relayed that information during a staff meeting we had, and I was like, well, yeah, because it's a phone, right? She's like, and no one thought of that, right? You know what I mean? It wasn't such a common thing, because yes, people will submit their audio without even listening to it, because again, you get those botched recordings of auditions on your phone, into it like this or into it like this, and you know, all the wind and plosives, it's like, wow, you really didn't listen to this before you sent it, because otherwise you would have redone it, because it's to a point where I can't even send it to the client, right? So headphones, trust the headphones. And that's why, like, you know, if you go down the rabbit hole on the internet and you get lost in the insanity of people's opinions, well, this mic is better and that mic's better. You know, I've yet to meet, and if anyone out there knows someone that can listen to a voiceover and tell me what mic it was recorded on, I would love to meet that individual. But you know, when it comes to your headphones, the whole not music headphones and the closed back thing, you know, music headphones a lot of the times will give it extra bass, right? So what you're hearing in, you know, a non-studio headphone is going to be slightly polished on certain, you know, EQ frequencies for the enjoyment of music for the most part. So when you have your studio headphones, this is just, here is the audio and nothing more. So it's not going to add, say, extra bass to your voice, Robyn.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and when you listen to that back, that is kind of like, you know, putting your recording under the microscope when you have it in your ears like that, right?
It was great. The cheap set of headphones, I'm like, I can hear, this is, you mean, the one thing I can save money on is headphones. Amazing. So that was,
well, that's just it. I mean, Behringer makes a decent pair of studio headphones, you know, for $27.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to break the bank, and, you know, it's fine. Yeah. Mixing with headphones is a big faux pas. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to do, it's something you're not supposed to do. You should be using, you know, reference monitors in a studio, or at least a somewhat treated space if you're an engineer or mixing engineer. But, you know, with the headphones, it literally is just, number one, comfort. Number two, clean, pure audio, nothing manipulated frequency-wise for, again, like music or enhancing your gaming experience, right? Leave that for when you are gaming or jamming the tunes.
For sure. And even, I love that you mentioned the GarageBand, GarageBand, because that was the first, oh my God, I'll create the other commercial demo reels. This is such a side, it's so frustrating. It's on that list. But the first version of my commercial demo reel that I used GarageBand for, it came out so, and you pointed out, it was like very radio, very whatever. I'm like, oh, well, that's a shame. We're really hard on that. So it's finding the right software, and then again, the mic, just like have a good space. And I thought that was good because I was obsessing, like, what mic do I get? oh my gosh, should I change mics? I'm like, no, the mic is fine. So it's just so interesting because again, you go online and you're like, oh, okay, well, this person has this and they're booking, so maybe I should just copy their studio. No, I don't have the space. I don't have the whatever budget they have. Yeah.
Totally, right? And that's just it. I mean, everything's going to be different for everyone, And some people will say, well, I like, the TLM 103 because it makes my voice sound, and it's like, sure, that's subjective. Someone might disagree with you if they're listening to your audition on their MacBook speakers or their Lenovo ThinkPad, or their earbuds versus a pair of, say, like over-the-ear Skull Candy cans, right?
I was going to make a joke because we mentioned Lenovo. This is sponsored by Lenovo.
That's hilarious. Well, it's just, they are great machines, You can also build great machines for a fraction of the price than pre-built machines, but if that's not your thing.
I think one of the, like, randomly, there are a bunch of people, you can make your own sound booth at home. Mm-hmm. And yes, you probably could, but I would argue when you live downtown, where am I going to store these tools? Where am I going to do this cutting? I don't understand. So yeah, that was I'm like, I admire anyone that built their own thing and has the blankets. I'm like, I don't know, this piping and the blanket stuff. I couldn't figure it out. So that was fine.
Even the thought, I thought about it myself for those individuals that, are in a 750 square foot condo and couldn't, cut their lumber. But the thought of upholstering something, I just want to punch myself in the face. That is so tedious to me that, there's no way in hell that, I could do that without losing my mind and getting angry.
But what's also sad? When people say, okay, record in your closet, I go, look, again, I don't know if anyone else lives downtown. What closet do they have that they can actually fit it? Like, I don't know. I don't know where people are living. I assume not downtown, or they figured out their space better than I did.
Well, even with that, there's specific frequencies and rumbles that you'll actually get in the noise floor depending on your location, right? So, those who are in older buildings downtown, I find that I hear specific, more of a rumble, not a hum, but more of a rumble versus a hum. But it also changes as you go up in floors, right? Those that are on lower floors, it's interesting because, the buildings surrounding them, is still, a form of insulation, right? It's still stopping any sound that's coming from blocks away, right? You got to think of it that way. So if you're on the top floor and there's nothing around you, I remember one of the people that approached me about advice. They were living on top of Hamilton Mountain, and they could actually, and they're on like the 16th floor of their building, so there was nothing surrounding their suite. And you could actually hear some of the, what added to the noise floor was, the industrial area just down at the QEW there, down the mountain from that, right? Because if they were on a lower floor, I said you wouldn't get that because you have the surrounding buildings stopping that sound from traveling. But, just like the headphones, the microphone is also like a kind of a microscope for sound, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's just it too. Like when we're talking microphones and we're talking, say, price points, sometimes a cheaper microphone is going to be more beneficial to your location, because if it's, the more expensive it is, the better the quality, the better it's going to pick up your sound and your voice and everything else, including any anomalies. So, mm-hmm. And I've had people that were able to, get an acceptable noise floor just by, say, engaging a low-cut switch, which removed a rumble from their sound.
Classic low-cut switch. No idea what that means.
Amen for that, right?
But you know what I really appreciate from this discussion? It's knowing that their space is different, and that there's no one-size-fits-all perfect studio because there's so many different factors. And I think it's really hard because you go and there's so many online forums of this is the end all be all of what you need. You go, well, no, that doesn't work and it's not working. And then, maybe don't spend all my money on that. So, meh.
Well, exactly. Right. And as my old man once said, you're either paying money or you're paying time. Right.
Oh, I like that.
So, and often when you pay in time, I mean, well, let's face it, you get what you pay for. So, you know, and in hindsight's 2020, right? So, you know, it's all measure twice, cut once, right? So do your research, ask around, right? And then make your own decision what's best for you, right? You know, a lot of the times people don't realize that, you know, they'll have, you know, blanket fort or a, you know, the PVC piping or, you know, a skeleton frame with moving blankets or, you know, producer's choice sound blankets. And, you know, blankets will help absorb reflections. Same with a thick duvet or, you know, anything soft and fluffy, but, you know, they're not a sound barrier, right? You know what I mean? So they don't really, you know, keep sound out. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that a lot of people don't even think of when it comes to that, where it's like, if you turn your TV on and it sounds the same on one side of, you know, your blanket wall as opposed to the other side, right? You know, there's not going to be that much of a difference. So people have to keep that in mind. And that's why it's like, you got to find a quiet space overall and then build from there, right?
If you build it, jobs will come.
For a lot of people, yes.
Okay.
I like that one.
Thank you. Again, I'm thinking of all these winners today. You're inspiring me. That's what happened.
Field of Dreams. I'm going to have to, I'm going to show my kids that one now that, like, now that the Leafs choked, as they always do, and there's no other sports to watch other than the Jays, you know, so that's definitely one of the next movies I'll have to show them.
I haven't seen that one in a while. Huh. Such a good line, though. Everyone just knows where it's from. I wonder the number of people that say that line but have never actually seen the movie. Probably 10 people in total.
Well, it's funny. You never know because, like, you know, some shows will, you know, spit it out. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, it's from The Simpsons. It's like, actually, no, it's not. It's, you know? So that oddly bothers me. I wonder if the writer of Field of Dreams heard that and they go, no, excuse me, sir. It was parodied on The Simpsons. It is my line. Sir, exactly.
However you identify, yes.
Well, you know, it's funny because I remember, like, you know, talking the movies thing comes from my parents big time. Like, you know, I remember seeing Independence Day and Jurassic Park Thursday night at midnight up at, like, the Uptown or Eglinton Theater for the late night sneak preview. And so, you know, we talk about movies a lot in my immediate family. And one of the things particularly was the amount of times my old man would say to me, like, Dad, Darryl, that's a remake. Yeah, Darryl, that's a remake. I'm like, this is an amazing movie. Dad, it's really great. You got to see it. Oh, yeah, that's a remake. You know, 1966, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, right. And it's funny because, like, it kind of, you know, I'd be like, you know, I find, like, the originality appealing and everything else that really spoke to me. And but it was also kind of cool to then, you know, look up the original film and kind of compare it and see, you know, what they did that was good and what may have not have been so great, right? So
I agree.
You know, totally.
I always expect the older movies to not be as good, but some of the acting is amazing. I'm like, oh man, it doesn't matter the time frame. Talent is talent.
Absolutely. You know, it's also interesting too. I mean, my kids they're young. They're 9 and 11. And one of the first franchises I showed them outside of, like, the family friendly Back to the Future was the Die Hard franchise. Okay. I mean, Back to the Future was phenomenal. We've seen that 600 million times because
if my brother
young.
is still on this, he will discuss how obsessed I was with Back to the Future that my family's traumatized. That's all we would watch every weekend. I only like the first one, some parts of the second one, third one, not my thing. But that is, I just don't know why. The concept and everything. I rewatched it a couple months ago. I'm like, it still holds up. It's phenomenal.
Totally. I agree with you on that. And that is one thing, you know, on my deathbed, that's going to be on my list of, you know, what I'm watching as I'm going, you know, because it still speaks to me the same way every time I watch it. And again, we've watched it like 24 billion times because, you know, kids, when they're younger, they get onto something. I mean, the amount of times I've seen Toy Story in cars, holy crap, you know, it's like, you know, the thought of it. But Back to the Future, yeah, sure, anytime. It was like, what do you guys want to watch? Back to the Future, yeah, sure, right? can do that.
That was the joke because we would do with my siblings. Okay, so what are we gonna watch? They'd say all the titles. Okay, cool. I'm the oldest, so Back to the Future. All right, awesome. Sometimes I'd add True Lies to be fancy because Arnold's classic.
That is
Jamie Lee
awesome.
Curtis.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Totally, right?
Michael J. Fox is my childhood crush. Esther, I love that.
I get it.
He was,
so you've seen
nothing.
Teen Wolf enough times, right?
I've seen, pardon?
Teen Wolf enough times, right?
I haven't.
What?
No.
You haven't seen like Michael J. Fox surfing on top of a van, Teen Wolf?
No, I haven't seen the Teen Wolf.
You got to watch Teen Wolf.
Well, no, I know what it is. I haven't. No. Now I feel like I've missed out on a huge part of history, and
no,
doing so well.
As a Michael J. Fox fan, check it out. Right?
I like Michael J. in certain things, and I always joke because, well, my husband is Michael J. Different last name.
That's awesome.
Like, that I realized that after we got married. I'm like, that's creepy, but also, although was that an overshare? No, I don't think so. I'm trying not to share too much personal information on these things, and then I overshare. It is what it is. Here's my social insurance. You can find me at this address.
Well, it's funny in regard to with the whole the older movies, because when I showed them Die Hard, I started backwards. I started with the most recent one with the most, and it's funny too, because also what I did too. Well, from my perspective, I mean, listen, one of my favorite movies, The Longest Day, right? Black and white, my old man. To me, The Longest Day is not just a great movie as a movie, but it's a childhood memory of my old man asleep on the couch on a Sunday afternoon, and The Longest Day was on. Some sort of black and white war movie was always happening, right? And back when we used to have VCRs and DVD players, particularly VCRs, if you remove the converter from his hand when he was sleeping, you'd wake up. Oh, I was watching that. I was just resting my eyes, right? And you're like, shit. Now I'm not going to get the TV, right? So we would have to swap out the converter with the VCR converter in his hand, and he wouldn't wake up. So, so from my perspective on that, it was like, if I show these kids the first, in its order, they might be like, Dad, what's this old thing? You know what I mean? So I showed it to them backwards, right? And also, when it comes to franchises, the storyline always sucks as it goes along, so you have to make up for it with more explosions and actions, etc. Right? So I mean, and that's just it. If they're driving through Russia and they're driving dump trucks off bridges and crazy stuff like that, and of course, whoa, lots of screaming going on because it was very unexpected. They loved the last one, but they also loved the first and the third one just as much. And it's funny because, the second one sucked because it sucked. I mean, do I need to say any more? No, it just sucked. That was the
first one is the classic.
Totally, right? And that one, that was the one I was most worried about because it's more dialogue, right? And it's are these kids going to, my kids, they love Christopher Nolan movies. They love to be mind-boggled, right? So, and it's funny because, we've watched, I have to show them Tenet again for the second time. I saw it in theaters. I saw it for a second time, and I'm going to see it again for a third time just because there's some things that I've missed. But, it is one of those things too where, how much attention are they actually going to hold while these things are going on, right? So, so it's funny because the last time we saw Tenet, we were watching Tenet. Great. Hey, let's make it a double header. Let's watch another movie, and the next, it was like Yes Day or something. You know what I mean? So it's
that one.
Such a 180 from here's the fun, silly, and it's funny because I spent most of that.
How was Yes Day?
It was great if you weren't watching it.
Okay. Yeah.
I spent most of it on my phone. Yeah. Right. My kids loved it. They were laughing, but half the time I was like, just for good measure, guys. This is why there's no such thing as Yes Day. Because the house is almost on fire. This is why there's never going to be a Yes Day, right? Just making sure they know that, right? But it was fun. It was a fun little flick.
So because that was Jennifer Gardner, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so weird because I know her as Alias and whatever other superhero kind of character she played, or even 13 Going on 30. She's adorable. I'm like, oh, she's a mom now. This is so weird. I don't know. In my head, I'm like, well, as if they're getting older, then I'm getting older. And I don't know if I like this. But, yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. Like one of the last conversations I had with my mother, she was talking about like, I feel as though like all of her friends or people she's known who've kicked the bucket over like the last 6 months. And it's like, you know, she's, I think she'll be 68 this year. Right. And I'm like, you know, Mom, you spend an hour on Sundays filling your weekly pill container. You know what I mean? You're at that age, right? You know, even myself, like I just turned 38 this year, and I've had friends that have died, and it's like 10 years ago, you're like, you know, you're invincible, you know, in your 20s, whatever. But you know, you get to a certain age, and then you realize, like, you know, sometimes life or the end of life catches up with you, right? So
We're getting dark. Woo.
I wouldn't say
Nothing
it's
like
dark.
keeping it light. No,
It's
okay.
a fact of life, and you know, it's funny. I tell my kids how much I'm going to haunt them when I kick the bucket. Right? You know what I mean?
That's,
like,
I can see you being a ghost 100%.
Totally, right? And I just said, you know, I'll be there kicking around. Just don't. I said, just don't let it mess you up. Just don't let it mess you up in the head. Everything will be fine, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's life is an interesting journey.
I think, you know what, it's weird when I see, I was a big fan of the combination of Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, War of the Roses, Jewel of the Nile, all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Not Jewel of the Nile, the first one. What was it called? Romancing the Stone. That was way better.
Okay, yeah.
And I just thought they had such great chemistry. And I'm watching the Kaminsky Method, and they're older, like a lot older. And it's just so weird because the acting's still there, but I just, my childhood, I mean, I didn't watch that in my childhood, mid-child, whatever age. And it just, I can't in my head, I cannot conceptualize that it's the same people. I can't, because I have a vision of what Michael Douglas was and Kathleen Turner was. I'm like, okay, no, I understand they're older. I understand. I respect that. But can they not be? Because there's certain I don't know. They were so good on screen together. And I'm like, it's still there, but is it? I don't know. Thoughts. Okay.
Well, you know, there's that saying, never meet your heroes, right? That's just like an example. It's all relative perspective. I showed my kids Little Monsters with Fred Savage and Howie Mandel, right? That was awesome when I was a kid. And when I watched it again with my kids, I was like, oh, this isn't as great in my head, right? And again, all relative perspective. My kids loved it. I mean, Monsters Under Your Bed, you know, such a theme. And actually, it's funny because I want to say way back then, I actually had one of those My Pet Monster stuffed animals, right? So I kind of went through like that monster phase, and so I'm sure that's why. Again, I loved the film, right? But yeah, again, I was sitting there thinking like, oh my god, I watched this like 3 times when I was a child. What a waste of life, right? Now that I'm older, right? So, you know,
it's hard to revisit. You say that, and then I think I've said this multiple times on my chats. Animaniacs is still my favorite cartoon. It is holding up, and I love it. I'm glad they brought it back. It needed to be brought back. And I think it's the same people voicing it, and I love that so much.
Totally, right? You know, and well, it's also funny too because even like The Simpsons, like my kids are watching The Simpsons all the time now, and you know, it's available at our fingertips. It's funny because when I was younger, you know, being born in the '80s, you know, when a cartoon came on at prime time, you know, my parents were like, "This is a cartoon, right? So it must be for kids." And it was like, "Yeah, sure, you can stay up on the Thursday night it was on." Right, to watch it. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, now that I'm older, I'm like, this is adult content, right? You know what I mean? They had no idea. They just, you know, knew it appeased us. And there's a saying, never bribe your kids. Don't ever listen to that because that's a little crap. Bribe your kids as much as you can. Take every win you can get, right? So, you know, the Thursday nights we'd stay up late to watch The Simpsons on prime time. And, you know, explaining to my kids why I think it is still like one of the best shows in history, right? And the things that how it's evolved, right? Is because they constantly talk about like, you know, he's still 10 years old. She's still 10 years old, right? You know what I mean? Like guys, for like 30, how many years she's been, you know, that age, right? It's kind of comical, right? But,
yeah, Nancy Cartwright will never age as Bart. I love that master class. That was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I love learning from everyone. I don't know. It's just so fascinating too. Even the whole "eat my shorts," how she came up with those phrases, and it's just learning all those little. I love the behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, totally, right.
As part of this, like the behind the scenes, what are they listening to? What's going on in Darryl's head? He's just very particular. Yeah.
There's a hamster on the wheel when it's not sleeping. That's about it.
That makes sense.
Thanks.
No, I mean, but it's not a bad thing per se. I don't know. I always have things going on in my head. We just, it's creativity that's always there and always needs to
Absolutely. I do a lot of pacing. I do a lot of thinking. I talk to myself out loud quite a bit.
Just sucks when you
Even
argue with yourself, right? I mean, then you
well,
lose, you're stuck with yourself. Okay.
my best advice for that is don't do it in front of the mirror, right? Because then you'll end up, then it gets worse, right? But but yeah, I mean, when it comes to the creative thing, you just got to do what you got to do. And that was even the smoking thing, right? Like the smoking thing, I would literally break up my days and, okay, if I was working on something creative, whether we were cutting a record or if I was like producing a voiceover reel or a sound design project came in for freelance engineering, I would kind of do X amount of work and this is when I could take a break. And I'd go out and sometimes I'd have 2 or 3 cigarettes and I would just be pacing up and down the driveway or even the sidewalk, and in my head, just going through everything that I was going to do next or any ideas that I had to process and kind of put somewhere and then get to whenever I get to it, right? So
I have such a weird theory that when you're smoking, I mean, it's breathing in, right? And I wonder if people that are smokers, are they the best meditators? Because they take their time, they have their space. This is my time to do my thing. And I don't know. It's a thought I've always had. I'm like, are they just in, this is my time, no one can disturb me, and now I go back to life? I wonder
well,
that.
that's just it. I mean, like I booked our tour by myself for the most part, and half of that was done literally like over the course of a few days on my smoke breaks. I would just write down, okay, this is it was something to do while I was smoking, right? And so I'm like, if I didn't take those breaks and have that time set aside to focus on getting that done and doing that thing, would it have happened, right? So, I mean, whether you do that or whether, even right now, like I find myself, I'm not climatized to outside because I'm never outside anymore, right? So I've even now thought to myself, maybe you should, take like every 2 hours, just make sure you go stand out there for 5-10 minutes, kind of get back into that routine, right? But then, obviously I'm not going to be puffing on a cigarette, but I can be out there with my pen and my pen.
Would you do the fake thing? Just like chew on a pen, or I don't know. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just curious.
No.
The actual, that like I need something in my hands?
Robyn, it's for me, it's all of it. It's all of it. You know what I mean? I joke around sometimes and, I make sure I do the exhale out of the nose as well. You know what I mean? So it's all of it across the board. Sometimes though, it's beneficial when I do step outside because someone could be smoking on the street and I catch a whiff of it. It's like, yeah, that's cool. That's great. That's all I need. Right. But for me, again, it's just, it would just be a time to put my thoughts down, put my next steps and, help it apply to, my creative approach on things like it did in the past before I stopped doing so. Right?
I see. And that's interesting because I was very serious when I think that people, they take that time. And it's so hard for people to commit to that time. So when you have something that kind of forces you to take every couple hours, you have to, smoke or go.
Totally right. You have to kind of, step away. But the interesting thing about that, and I was never really one to say like, oh, I need to calm down because it only increases your heart rate, right? You know what I mean? You're poisoning your blood, really, right, via the lungs. So, but yes, there is that mental thing. Right?
Are we encouraging people to smoke now? Is this what this is happening? I apologize if that's what's like. Can I just
unless you want to go bankrupt? Let's face it. Unless you want to go bankrupt, because I want to say it's like around $20 a pack or a little short of that.
Yeah, that's pricey.
Insane, right? So to kill yourself, it's quite the cost. So
you gotta invest in yourself. There you go.
But I in regards to like even the meditation thing, I don't think so in particular, right? Because, you need to kind of be grounded. You need to be calm, right? Mm-hmm. For the mental thing, it's just like, sure, the fix. I don't think that is necessary. But like, also I grew up listening to a lot of talk radio, right? So back then you could hear them taking their drags and exhaling, right? On microphone, right? So, between that's that dramatic. And, my mom smoking through, me and all 3 of my siblings, and we're a disaster. That'd be a walking PSA, really. But I'm sure I had like
you should voice it.
Thanks.
You should. There you go. Voice your little PSA.
I'm sure there's some things there that tied to the comfort, but, it was the talk radio guys. And that's what really had voice, when voice really appealed to me, before I even fell into the business, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, you were an actor, right, for a bit, if I'm not mistaken. You did.
no,
Oh, I thought you tried to do acting. Okay.
no,
I don't
I
know
mean,
why.
if anything, you can call me a hacker. I did land, I did a couple commercials, and I have lent my voice to some projects by request, and
That's
I
acting.
did,
Okay,
yeah,
there you go.
right. But it
I thought you
wasn't
did
like for
something.
real. It
Okay.
wasn't like the real thing. A lot of it was to kind of literally feel the experience from being on that side with a producer, with real clients, doing it on your own. Hey, I can lay down a couple reads. Yeah, sure. That's great. If it's just me doing that. When I have a client that's asking for something, I wanted to kind of grasp like what it was actually like, So in voiceover, I did go on to a website, paid my $390 US for the year. I was able to make a good chunk back, voicing a couple of things, and it was again just for that experience. And the behind the in front of the camera thing. When I was working at the agency, they were asking for a specific look. They're like, "This is Darryl to the T," and they asked if I had any interest in going up for it. I was like, "Sure." I mean, I was 17 years old at the time, and so when I did my first commercial, I was just a kid, and it was awesome. But it's funny because I actually learned about how when you're shooting something, it's 90% waiting.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sitting there thinking, and on top of that, it was a commercial for Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they kept giving me shit because I was eating snack wrap throughout the shoot, right? Only for at the end of the day, they came out, they had a truck that was making them and handed them out to everyone, and I was like, I'm a little over this. Right? But I mean, hey, whatever.
Do you still have the commercial?
I do actually. Actually, I think it might actually even be on my Facebook.
Oh, that's fun.
So
I don't know if I did a deep
down,
dive on that. Okay.
And
I think that should be reshared. Back
Yeah,
in your glory days of being an actor.
Well, here's the funny thing. I had so many of my classmates being like, "Darryl, I've seen that commercial. It's always on. It's always on." I never saw it on the air.
I hate when that happens.
Right?
When people go, "Robyn, I see you." I'm like, "Where? What channel?" I'm on the channels. How are you seeing me? Why do I not get the same cable as you? I don't understand. I know it could be a different channel, but I'm like, isn't CNN? What?
Well, it's funny, And then another one I did was like a spec commercial for like Rogers Yahoo, and it was for a friend of mine who was an actor, and he was directing it, and the epitome of bad acting is that spot, okay? And even to the point, they're like, "Darryl, we just need people. Do you have like friends that are interested?" Like they weren't looking for like real actors. Again, it was just a spec thing that was like, and for a bunch of kids, because at that time I think I was in my early 20s, and it was like, yeah, sure. My girlfriend at the time, my neighbor across the street, one of the guys that played in my band, and my sister actually like posted it, being like, here's a little gem for you, and that's when I just I text her. I was just like, jerk, But I mean, it was really, 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 really bad and campy. So,
but that's the thing. That's why you are an actor. You've had the bad commercial. Everyone needs the bad commercial. You go, "Dear God, yes, I remember that. Thank you for finding it from the archives."
Well, yeah, exactly, right. I mean, it's the experience, and it was fun, and it is what it is. As you get older and you give less shits, it's really come to me that what other people think of me is none of my business, right? Ultimately, that's that has helped my security, but well, without getting too I don't know. Sometimes the girlfriend likes to express I'm arrogant when actually I'm like, no, actually I wasn't even listening to you. I was watching TV. You know what I mean? So it's kind of comical in that sense. But no, when I started in the business, I was 16 years old. I think it was grade 10. I remember going to like the guidance counselor, and I think I was trying to skip. I was trying to skip science, right? So we'd make appointments in high school at the guidance counselor for the classes we didn't want to be in, and I just taught. I played in the band. I also played competitive hockey, but I was on skates since the age of 2, so it was more like a chore. And I did break my old man's heart at the age of 17 that I didn't want to play anymore. But I made that decision at the age of 15 and let him shell out thousands of dollars for, you know, AA and AAA GTHL, you know, only to drop that on him at a certain time.
AAA, good for you.
No, it was fun. I mean, I don't know. It's now more than ever because there's not that pressure. Again, it was like a chore for me. I used to get into a fight every game just so I'd get kicked out because I didn't want to play. You know, my mom was cheesed because, again, it was thousands of dollars. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I decided, okay, I'll do high school co-op in a recording studio so that I can score maybe some free recording time for my band. My parents raised me with a really good work ethic, so I busted my ass, and I was always there for the hours everyone else was there. There was a couple other co-op students that were there, but they would always peace out at 3 o'clock because, like, school's over, right? And I'm like, well, the workday's not over. And here's the thing, I'm gaining priceless experience. You know, when I bought my first guitar, you know, again, the hockey thing. If I broke a stick, no problem, Darryl, get you a new stick. If the chassis on my skate busted, no problem. Dad would run up to, you know, Just Hockey up at Don Mills in Lawrence there. New skates, no problem. But it was like I got an acoustic guitar when I was in grade 6, and that was awesome. So then I wanted an electric guitar, and the response was, "We'll get a job." Okay, right? But again, like that, you know, I break these. You know, I used to have like a composite blade on my aluminum stick that would retail for $89. I'd break that, no problem. I'd run out and replace it, right? So I worked at Maple Leaf Gardens over the Christmas holidays in grade 8. Okay. And I got enough money to then go to the pawn shop and buy myself a nice little Fender Squire. And so I mean, that was awesome. And it was like, you know, playing in a band. All right, I'll bust my ass and I will get maybe some free recording time because of, you know, how much of a keener I'm going to be, you know, working with these guys and really push. And we ended up cutting a couple records actually from that. And yeah, a lot of them thought I was crazy because, again, I was there more than I needed to. And I really took the initiative. Again, this is just how I was raised. And that's how I scored the job, my first job at Edna Talent Management when I was 17. You know, their engineer and booth director was going on vacation. And I stepped in for the 2 weeks there because, you know, there was word on the street of this, you know, this kid that was really pushing it when it came to work ethic, et cetera. And yeah,
that was
so
you.
yeah, and so and that was awesome. It was funny because like it was my first ever big like full-time paycheck, right? Good money paycheck, and I went down to Long and McQuaid to buy a pack of strings for that acoustic guitar. And 2.5 hours later, I walked out with a $650 Epiphone Explorer. Right? So I was like, paycheck gone, right? Young and dumb a reason. But that's how I ended up, you know, falling into voiceover. I didn't know exactly the scope of, you know, how serious all of these projects were and the legitimacy were. I mean, I was just some 17-year-old kid, and, you know, I was like, oh, this is a whatever commercial. So being exposed to the commercials that I had been, I would just, you know, direct how I felt, and, you know, they liked me, and then they ended up taking me on, you know, full time. So that's how I initially started in the business. I did have the pleasure of doing some like kind of loop group and Foley work when I worked at Deschamps. You know, we were cutting all the cutting the boards for like the new, I think it was either satellite or cable packages that had your action channel, that had your romance channel, all of those things, right? And one of the first things I did was I blew my voice in a 45-minute session voicing a guy who was flying off of his motorcycle and pulling guns out of his holsters and shooting as he was flying over his motorcycle into the next, you know, into the segment from action channel to like horror channel or whatever. But I was screaming that, "Whoa!" and you know, shooting the guns. And, you know, here I am, like, you know, 16, 17 years old. It was kind of comical.
I mean, you can do that with your voice at that age. No one knows how old you are when you're behind the mic.
Well, totally, right? And, you know, it's funny because even like, you know, growth spurt, I've looked like this since grade 8. I had my growth spurt in grade 6. So when I would go on hockey tournaments, every tournament, usually across the border, they would always ask for my birth certificate because they never believed I was the age that I was, right? So, which I mean, in grade 8, I played in a jazz band, and I had a bit of a complex about it because I played in a jazz band, and because I was, I was more developed than everyone else. I had to slug the heavy amps and speakers, and there was a complex. As you walk by classes, like people are probably thinking, like, who's this like 16-year-old still in grade 8? Right? You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny.
It's good and bad, right? I remember.
Totally. My daughter, she just hit 5'5". She's grown 2 inches in the last 6 months. She's 11 years old. She's hit 5'5". She's still growing, right?
I feel her.
She loves it.
I mean, I'm glad she does. Look, someone brought this up to me in a previous chat. I was a very tall child. So you get the punishment of being in the back for the school photo, that kind of, no, you're too tall, and then it's always, you just look like, I look at old photos and I look like everyone's mom just because of the height. And it's just the height. I got glasses. I didn't know what kind of glasses were. I look like I am the mother of these short high school children.
I get it.
It was interesting. It was shockingly not castable.
Well, it's funny. My old man is he's 6'4". My mom's 5'3", and even at his age, he's still that. I've shrank an inch, right, since I've last measured myself, which is kind of comical. And I'm like, okay,
well, you got to stand up. You got to do your every 2-hour walks. There you go.
Yes, thank you. No,
pressing the spine every now and then. I throw in some physio. It's free.
Well,
I
was going to say, so making an appointment with my chiropractor friend, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess now it's time for me to bring myself to him and start see what the hell's going on here before I shrink even more, right? But
next time I see you, you're going to be like, well, 5 something.
Possibly. And it's bad enough. I'm the shortest of my 2 brothers, so But I mean, I don't let that get to me, right? It's all what's in here. It's all what's in here.
I was making sure. I'm like, was that was the left side? Cool, good. Okay. Oh God. Okay, Darryl, I know we only blocked off an hour, and I say only.
Oh yeah, what time
you
is
give me? It is. We're coming close to the end, and I feel like you're very busy. So I like to say final words because it seems so inappropriate and morbid. But is there any final thoughts you'd like to leave the viewers with? I know I put you on the spot. Okay. No, let's change it to no final thought. Just another thought that we should end on. There you go. Not final. Changing the words. Changing the instruction.
khcasting.com/Zoom classes, and that's where you can find the time to sign up with me.
That's actually a really great point. I think I just saw them advertise you're doing a couple new classes. So yes, I'll do the tagging and the plugging. Daryl's a pretty cool guy, as you can tell. Very passionate, knows his stuff, and we learned some fun stuff about him today. So there you go.
Thanks. Always happy to share. Hope I didn't overshare.
No, that's the thing. I'm like, yeah, you're pretty good. I don't think this is an overshare. I feel like you've overshared more. I think you held back on us. So there's a lack of sharing.
For sure. When it's in the small group, right? When everyone's comfortable, but there's a time and a place for everything.
That's fine.
I think I only swore like 4 times too.
I don't even think it was that much. Yeah. You never know. But Darryl, thank you so much for doing this. I will try and promote accordly.
Awesome.
You're awesome.
Thank you, Robyn. I appreciate it.
I also realized I should now take more classes with you. I'm like, dear God, commercials. But yes, enjoy the rest of your day. It is sunny. I don't know how to end these, so we do like an awkward bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you very much, Robyn. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Take care.